the Viltrox AF85mm f1.8 for Canon, the new mirrorless Canon cameras. And here you have the lens itself. It's way heavier than I expected, but we feel the high quality metal on it. Now, I am expecting great things of this lens because it has all the contact pins from the RF lens, and it has the USB update thing to update the lens. We have autofocus and manual focus. Autofocus is a big deal on a cheap lens. Awesome. I need to test how is the performance of autofocus of this lens with the impressive dual pixel focus from the Canon. Let's see if this lens can keep up. By removing the sun hood, the stringently strong sun hood, we can rotate the focus ring, which is an infinity one. So as you can see, the closest focus point, it's less than a meter. That's quite impressive, and I don't know why you're gonna do a portrait extremely close like that, but you can. That's the main point. So the diameter of this lens to filters is 72. I am a 77, so a step-up adapter, it's good enough. I'm really eager to test this bad boy. When you buy a lens like this, you think about portrait, but to test the quality in different apertures, landscape, it's a little bit better. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. I won't photograph walls or something like that, because to check out the distortion in something like that, it's a bit useless, because while it's at 85mm, you don't have much distortion on this. If it has, it's completely non-visible. So yeah, goddamn, I look like the fat version of Ali G. You guys know that I like to compare lenses to make a review of them, because, well, to check out the quality of an expensive lens, it's a good way to test with a cheap one. But this one is already cheap, and I will compare it with an even cheap one. This one is 5 times cheaper, but is the Viltrox 5 times better? Well, before I even start the test, I'm going to say yes, because you have the control of the aperture on the camera. This one, it's 100% manual. It's quite a pain in the ass if you're trying to make some portraits. And the metadata is awesome, because it helps you a lot on editing or trying to figure out which aperture were you. It's 5 times better, but let's check out the quality, okay? Another thing that beyond its manual, it's AF lens. So that means that I need an adapter to connect to the camera. But this adapter, it's not like a future review that I'm going to do about the adapter from Viltrox that compresses the image and in theory will increase the quality. It has no glass on it and just communicates with the lens. So it doesn't communicate with this one, because this one has nothing to communicate, but there we go. The images that I'm going to show you, I had to deactivate from Camera Raw the optical correction, so you can actually see what this lens is doing. Viltrox is way ahead. It's way sharper and way sharper in the corners. Now, one thing that I really hated with the Neewer $100 lens is that it even has chromatic aberration in the center of the image. So I'm quite impressed with the sharpness of the Viltrox. Even at 1.8, it's really good. Now in the corners, it folds a little bit. It has a little bit of chromatic aberration, but nothing that one simple click in Camera Raw or Lightroom won't fix. That is amazing. It's not that bad at all. We can see that there is a little bit of vignetting, nothing major. I actually find it quite pleasing here on the sky. f2.8 is completely invisible, so there is no visible vignetting, okay? Talking about distortion, yes, it has a bit of distortion, but every single lens has a bit of distortion, and this one actually I prefer to see it with distortion, especially for portraits. If I remove the distortion, I don't feel as natural image as it's supposed to be. So that is a personal taste, but there you go. At f8 is the sweet point of this lens, is where we have the highest sharpness on my lens, and at f16 the image gets a little bit softer, it's okay. So f8 is the sweet point of this lens if you want to have a bigger depth of field. Now, the breathing test wasn't the greatest one, so there is a little bit of breathing, but not enough to get out of 85 millimeters. You should take that in count when you are doing some video, that it has a little bit of breathing. Yeah, it's practically non-visible. If you are following someone walking, it won't be visible for sure. As we are touching about video, let's touch as well the touch screen focus thing that works really well. At least with my R6 is amazing. I can play with this really well. Now, the eye tracking, it's also phenomenal in video. So it tracks fast, it's almost like a native Canon lens, so the focus is smooth and it's beautiful. It tracks the eye with no problem at all. Ouais, très bien. Ouais, stop. Wow. Merci. That's nice and all, but this is a portrait lens, so let's try to make some portraits, and I need people to do that. I'm gonna just ask around. Est-ce que je pourrais faire quelques photos de vous juste pour faire le review en fait? And let's cue the 30 seconds montage à photo shoot. Ah ouais, très beau. Nice. There you go. Up. As you did calculate by now, the focusing, even at night like this, the eye tracking is amazing. It focuses always on point on the eyes. It has a good feeling when it's trying to focus, so it's fast but smooth. The bokeh of this lens is extremely smooth. Let's compare again with the Neewer, and you can see the texture of the lens, that it was not refined as it should be. Now this lens has not that problem. The autofocus elements are smooth. There doesn't have a texture in it, so really great. Now, 1.8 is a really short depth of field, so if you are taking pictures of 2 persons or even 3 persons, it becomes a little bit hard to have everyone in focus. Even though we have the feeling that they are at the same plane, they are not, and they get a little bit out of focus, okay? Well, the solution for that, let's try to close the aperture. Now, one thing that I didn't test it is that I was open always at 1.8. Let's reduce that and see what the blades will do on the bokeh. That means the autofocus areas. There we go, and now let's reduce the aperture. Maybe f4 just for fun. This is what we get. And by closing down the aperture, we can see that the lights in autofocus aren't as round and smooth as before. We can see the blades closing down the aperture. I'm not a big fan. I really prefer to see balls in the background, not really I use a lot the 70-200 to photograph at night, especially people in portraits, but this one has a little bit of the edge. It's a little bit sharper than my 70-200, and yeah, but this one, it's a prime. It should be better. Let me explain it a little bit better. That lens is a 70-100 millimeter lens. That the millimeters defines the zoom, and that lens, it's around 2,500 euros roughly, okay, when it's brand new, and it's a beast like this and extremely heavy. This actually is a prime lens. A prime lens has no zoom, so it's sticked at 85 millimeters. Usually it has a better quality because of that,
because it's just designed for that zoom range. Usually they have a really good aperture. That's how the amount of light that lets in.
Would I buy this lens for myself? Yes. I actually was looking to buy a lens like this to astrophotography, not for portraits, because last year I made this beautiful photo of one part of the Milky Way using Neewer 85mm 1.6, the lens that featured on this video as well, and I was extremely happy to have made this picture and extremely disappointed because it has a lot of problems. Not sharp enough. I was close to f2.5 because yes, that lens has a really awkward aperture measurement to try to get some finesse into the image, some details into the image that lens doesn't have. Now, I'm not using other lens because the other lenses are way too heavy to use with my star tracker, but this Viltrox 85 f2.8 I think is one of the best candidates to remake this picture. But as a portrait lens as well, I almost certain that will replace my 70-200mm because, well, it's practical to have the zoom range, but if you have the room to walk around, that means zoom with your feet, this lens is sharper and actually has a way bigger aperture. So there you go, that is my opinion. Please drop yours in the comments down below and drop a like if you like something, comment down below if you have any questions, and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. I am Miguel, until next time, see ya.